Bonjour, hola, and guten tag. My name is Avery, and today is day 14 of Preptober. Yesterday we talked about figuring out what your writing style is, figuring out whether you are more of a plotter, a pantser, or a plantser, so that you can choose what outlining method is going to work best for you. I will link that video in the description for anyone who hasn't seen it yet. Today, though, we are going to be taking a closer look at the jot, bin, pants outlining method. This is an outlining method that is very popular among pantsers, but I personally think it can work very well for any kind of writing style. So what exactly is the jot, bin, pants method and how does it work? Well, first we start with the jotting. Basically, whenever you come up with an idea for anything you want to happen in your novel, you jot it down. Just a little one-sentence summary of every plot point you come up with to help you keep track of your ideas, like Bobby gets a pet rabbit, Bobby finds out that his pet rabbit is a flesh-eating monster, Bobby gets eaten by the rabbit. The next step is bin. I originally just thought this meant scrapping all of the bullet points that you don't think will work in your novel, but I was wrong. I looked it up and it turns out that the bin part is actually sorting all of your bullet points into different subfolders or bins to give you a better idea of what order all of the events are going to occur in. And finally, pants. This is why this method is so popular with pantsers. Once you have arranged all of your plot points into their bins, you just write. You fly by the seat of your pants, as they say, and let your imagination run wild. This writing method is great for combating writer's block, as you don't end up stuck in a rut where you don't know what's going to happen next, as you can just refer back to the list of plot points you already created and just start writing about whichever plot point is next on the list. So to give you guys an example of how the jot, bin, pants method would work in practice, let's apply it to an already existing novel. Let's go with The Hunger Games for this example. Some of the important key events that occur in The Hunger Games are: Katniss volunteers for the Hunger Games to save her sister Prim. Peter's name is also drawn. Katniss enters the Hunger Games. Katniss and Peter win the Hunger Games. The opening ceremony where Katniss wears her burning dress. Katniss teams up with Rue. Rue is killed and Katniss covers her body in flowers. Katniss's friend Madge gives her the Mockingjay pin. Peter teams up with the career tributes. Katniss drops a nest of tracker jackers on the career tributes, and Katniss destroys the career tribute stash at the cornucopia. Katniss scores 11 out of 12 in the trials and all of the other tributes are jealous. Peter confesses in the interview that he is in love with Katniss. The rules of the Hunger Games are changed so that two people can win if they are from the same district. Katniss finds Peter when he's injured and nurses him back to health. The two-winner rule is revoked and Katniss and Peter have to pretend that they're going to eat the poisoned berries to get the rules changed back. Katniss and Peter travel to the capital. Katniss and Peter travel back to District 12. Hamish mentors Katniss and Peter. There's a scene where Katniss goes hunting in the woods with Gale. At the end of the Hunger Games, there's only Katniss, Peter and Cato left, and Cato gets attacked and eaten by those mutant dog things. And then there's that scene where Katniss is nearly killed by Clove, but Thresh saves her and he agrees to let her go for Rue's sake. Obviously, there are a lot more scenes in the book than that, but I think that's enough scenes to use as a basic outline to draw the novel around. So once we've jotted down some of those plot points, we are going to rearrange them. First of all, let's create 3 separate bins for them to go into, and let's just call them beginning, middle, and end. Place all of the different bullet points into one of these 3 bins to give yourself an idea of how you want your story to begin, how you want your story to end, and everything that happens in between. Then we shuffle them around a bit more until we are happy with the order that they go in. Once we are happy with the outline that we have, we get busy and start writing. Now, like I said, this plotting method can work well for any writing style. It all depends on how detailed you want your outline to be. So if you are a pantser, perhaps you can get by with 9 or 10 plot points sorted into 3 bins titled beginning, middle and end. If you are a plotter, on the other hand, then you could potentially come up with around 100 plot points and have a different bin for every single chapter of your novel so that you have a basic outline for every chapter that you're writing. So have a think about it. What kind of plot points can you think of that you want to include in your novel? If you're writing a ghost story, for example, some plot points to consider are: when do the protagonists first discover that something is wrong? When does the ghost first make their appearance? When does the first victim die? When do the protagonists discover the ghost's identity? When do they discover the backstory behind the ghost? What is the ultimate conflict at the end of the novel, and what happens after the conflict is resolved? If you are writing a romance novel, on the other hand, think about: when do the protagonists first meet? When do they go on their first date? When do they have their first kiss? Are there any obstacles in the novel that prevent the two love interests from being together? How do they overcome these obstacles? And how does your novel end? Does it have a happy ending or a sad ending? And if you're writing a fantasy, think about: what are the politics in the novel? Who is fighting who and why? How does the protagonist become involved in this fight? What is so special about the protagonist that makes their role in this fight so important? Where do they go? What happens to them along the way? Who are their allies? Who are their enemies? When do they first meet their allies? When do they have their first skirmish with the enemy? Is there anything the protagonist needs to learn or do in order to prepare for the final battle? What happens in the final battle? Who dies? Who survives? And what happens to the protagonist once the battle is over? Also keep in mind that you are probably not going to end up using every single plot point that you come up with. Sometimes you look back on one of the plot points that you came up with and you realise it just doesn't fit with the tone of the rest of your novel. Maybe it's a bit boring and you don't think the readers are going to enjoy it. Or maybe one of your plot points conflicts with another plot point that you came up with and you realise you can't keep them both and you have to get rid of one or the other. Whatever the case, don't feel the need to use every single plot point that you came up with in your novel, because chances are you're going to end up scrapping some of them. So your homework for today is to first of all consider whether or not you think that the drop bin pants method is going to suit your style of writing. If you think it could potentially work for you, then give it a try. Think of all the different events that you think might happen in your novel and jot them all down. Once you have written down all of the plot points you can think of, separate your novel into different sections, put all of your plot points into these different sections and rearrange them until you have a basic idea of what order each of the events are going to occur in. By the time you are finished, you should find that you already have a basic outline for your novel. Isn't it exciting? If you don't think that the drop bin pants method is going to be the right outlining method for you, or if you think there might be another outlining method that suits you better, do not worry, we are going to be looking at some more. In tomorrow's video, we are going to be taking a look at the plot roller coaster method. This is another plotting method that is very popular among pantsers, and tomorrow we are going to be testing it out and seeing how well this plotting method works for you. But that is the end of this video. In the comments, feel free to let me know what you think of the drop bin pants method. Does this plotting method work for you or not so much? And if you want to learn more about different outlining methods for your novel, please don't forget to subscribe so that you don't miss my next few videos that will be exploring all of the different plotting methods. Goodbye for now, and hopefully see you guys tomorrow.